Chapter 949. Promise him. Promise him. Promise him. The members of the basketball team jeered and Gu Mengmeng's face turned red, but she still nodded her head slightly. Snake heaved a long sigh of relief. He suddenly felt that these stupid humans were not completely useless. At least they knew how to help him lighten the mood at crucial moments. Seeing that they had added fuel to the fire to get Tumeng to give him a status, he would treat them better. Snake stood up and pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms. He heaved a long sigh of relief. Tumeng, you are finally mine. Gu Mengmeng knew that her nod meant that she had a boyfriend. Something like a boyfriend, she should be able to hug him, right? Her small hands wrapped around Snake's waist timidly. Ooh, it felt good. Snake's waist turned numb and his entire body trembled. In both his past and present lives, this was the first time Tumeng had taken the initiative to hug him. Unable to vent the boiling emotions in his heart, Snake lowered his head and kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips deeply, pouring all his tenderness into her. Until Gu Mengmeng almost suffocated, Snake then released her reluctantly. He chuckled. I will accompany you in your first awakening of love, and in the future, I will accompany you until your hair turns gray. I only exist because of you. So Tumeng, since you want me, you must not abandon me. Do you remember? Gu Mengmeng nodded, her heart itching. She knew that she did not have deep feelings for Snake, but she liked him. She liked how he protected her in his palms and carried her in his heart. His dominance, and everything about him could only belong to her alone. This feeling of being cherished and cared for made Gu Mengmeng sink into it. She could not resist it. She knew that there were some gaps that could not be crossed. For example, identity, status and family background. But before they had no choice but to separate, she wanted to cherish this one-sided love. She wanted to enjoy all the warmth he gave and reciprocate all the sincerity he had. After the club activities ended, the team leader led his men to clear the area. He asked all the girls who had broken up today to leave the basketball court. He then walked to Snake and wanted to put his hand on his shoulder. But he did not have the guts. So he stood in front of Snake and Gu Mengmeng and rubbed his hands. Our basketball club has never been so glorious. Snake, you are really too awesome. Let's go to a karaoke tonight as a welcome party for you. How about it? Snake looked down at Gu Mengmeng with a doting expression. Do you want to go? Gu Mengmeng instinctively wanted to shake her head, but the captain waved Kang's hand and said, Junior, basketball is a sport that emphasizes teamwork. Mutual understanding and trust are very important. Snake just joined us today, he needs to cultivate his relationship with us. What's more, today is your first day of love, you should celebrate it no matter what, right? This right was obviously directed at Snake. It had to be said that the second half of the captain's sentence was very accurate. The confirmation of his relationship with Tumeng was a cause for celebration. Gu Mengmeng saw that Snake's lips were already curling up, so she nodded and said, all right, then let's go together. That day at the KTV, everyone was having a wild time, but Snake just sat quietly and watched Gu Mengmeng, who was fooling around with everyone, with a smile on his lips. Chapter 950. Everyone took turns to sing a few rounds of songs. Some sang in different accents, while some sang with deep emotions. The last one was Snake. The team leader said that as long as Snake sang one song, today's event would end successfully. If he didn't sing, his and Gu Mengmeng's good days would not be complete. Gu Mengmeng's eyes lit up. Snake did not believe in superstitions. As long as he was around, who could stop him and Tumeng from being complete? He did not like to put himself in a position for others to entertain. Previously, participating in swimming competitions was already his limit. If not for the fact that he wanted Tumeng to have an early impression of him, even if it was just to look at him in the newspapers, he would not do such a thing. Now that his relationship with Tumeng was confirmed, he did not need to do such foolish things. His Tumeng would always be watching over him. But he could not resist Tumeng's expectant gaze. Thinking that this bunch of idiots had added fuel to the fire and helped him today, he nodded and pulled Tu Meng into his arms. They sat on the sofa and sang 123 I Love You. After singing, Snake immediately stood up and left the KTV with Gu Mengmeng in his arms. Everyone was not used to his style of doing things, but they did not mind too much. After all, he was already famous in the school when he was in the swimming club. Being able to hear a mute sing a song today was already enough to give them face. Therefore, no one cared about whether A wanted to go Dutch or not. The captain generously said that he would pay the bill, but when he went to the cashier to pay, he was told that half an hour ago, the KTV had changed owners, and the new owner's first order was that their private rooms were free of charge, and they could eat and play as they pleased. So, the team members went back and partied through the night. On the other side, Gu Mengmeng and Snake returned to the villa. They had just closed the door when Snake pressed Gu Mengmeng against the wall and kissed her deeply. There was a night light in the house. It was orange in color and the light was hazy and ambiguous. Gu Mengmeng did not know what to do. Gu Mengmeng's face was extremely red and her heart was beating wildly. If this level of heartbeat was due to a little deer bumping around, Gu Mengmeng was very worried about the little deer. It would probably die from the bumping, Snake's voice was hoarse as he asked softly with a single sound. We just confirmed our relationship today, the progress shouldn't be too fast. Gu Mengmeng curled up and lowered her head. Ha! Snake chuckled. Fast? He had waited 1,000 years in the beast world to meet her, and after reincarnating, he had waited a full 19 years to hold her in his arms. Not only was it not fast, it was simply too slow. However, he had no intention of scaring her. Although he desperately desired her, he wanted to save the best for the day they got married. He didn't want her life to have any more imperfections. She had suffered for 18 years. It was enough. In the future, with him protecting her, she could only be happy. But before that, there was something he needed to take care of. He lightly touched Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, "You're my girlfriend. Can't I kiss you when we're deeply in love?" No. Gu Mengmeng was not referring to this. She just felt that he wanted to do something else after kissing her. Then you can kiss me? Snake did not wait for Gu Mengmeng to finish her sentence. He pecked her on the lips again and said, "Good girl." Gu Mengmeng felt an indescribable sweetness growing in her heart when she was being praised in such a childish tone. She did not say anything and just smiled. Since Tu Meng wants to be a good girl, then this matter, shouldn't you give me an explanation? With that, Snake took out an envelope from his pocket. There was a heart-shaped sticker on the envelope. The sticker was slightly raised and it was obvious that it had been opened. That was the love letter she used to confess to the captain of the basketball team yesterday morning. Digression. Gu Mengmeng thought, "You have to maintain your persona, old brother. Settling scores after the fall is not suitable for you." Chapter 951. The white fog gathered again, as if that screen had never appeared. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead as she looked at the beast deity. Why do I feel like I will be taught a terrible lesson by Snake? The beast deity chuckled. I feel the same way too. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. It was not her fault for handing the love letter to the basketball club senior. She did not even remember him. Sigh, forget it. She could not help her past self even if she screamed till her throat broke. Anyway, she was such a coward. As long as she admitted her mistake and acted cute, Snake would not strangle her to death. Turning her head, Gu Mengmeng adjusted her expression. Papa, I have finished watching the television series. The beast deity nodded. Do you want to watch the next episode? Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. Don't act like you don't understand. Give me your pocket money. The beast deity rubbed his nose and laughed dryly. What do I want this time? Tell me. Gu Mengmeng thought for a moment. I am going to find the soul of the forest. Is there anything I cannot handle and need to prepare in advance? The beast deity thought for a moment. No. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Then when can Wabi be sent to Snake's side? Can you tell me now? The beast deity shook his head. Gu Mengmeng dusted her butt and stood up. All right, I won't ask for pocket money this time. I will just treat it as a filial daughter accompanying you to watch the television series. The beast deity gave a benevolent and kind smile. Were you provoked by Wabiai's words? Gu Mengmeng did not deny it. I have lacked a father's love since I was young. Actually, I do not know how to interact with a father. Although you look more like a brother than a father, but based on the fact that you are a deity, I will not be presumptuous enough to ask your age. Well, I still have to thank you for acting as my father. Accompanying you to watch television series, it can be considered as me enjoying the familial love of my parents. In the future, I will try my best to come back to accompany you, if you are not busy. The beast deity nodded with a smile. You are always welcome home. Gu Mengmeng waved her hand and turned to walk into the white fog. After the expected free fall, Gu Mengmeng opened her eyes and saw 3 furry little heads squeezing onto her. He raised his hand and touched them one by one before Heda and his brothers ran off happily. Elvis helped Gu Mengmeng up from behind and used his chest to let her lean against him. He brought a bowl of clear and sweet water to Gu Mengmeng's lips and fed her while saying, "It's raining heavily now, so we found a temporary cave to hide in. We will continue our journey after 2 more days when the weather clears up." Gu Mengmeng nodded. During the monsoon season, it would either not rain or once it did, it would last for 10 days to half a month. It was indeed not a good time to travel. If it was just her, Elvis, Leah and Wabiai, it would be fine. But the problem was that she had 3 sons and she could not bear for them to suffer with her. Thinking of her sons, Gu Mengmeng turned to look at her 3 beast-like sons. Frowning, she asked, "What happened to the 3 of them? Why are you in your beast form?" Elvis chuckled and asked, "Don't you feel that they are different?" Chapter 952. Elvis patted Heda's head and said, "Leader, begin." Heda nodded his head, while Jiaoyu and Kanwood took 2 steps back, feeling a little eager to give it a try. Then, Heda slowly transformed into a human in front of Gu Mengmeng. But, this height, Gu Mengmeng suddenly sat up straight, unable to hide the surprise on her face. She was overjoyed to see this graceful young man in front of her. The immaturity of a 6 or 7-year-old had faded away, and the current Heda was like Qi Xian, like a 17 or 18-year-old youth. Elvis threw a piece of beast skin to him, and Heda tied a simple beast skin skirt around his waist. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Mummy, I have evolved into a first-level orc." Gu Mengmeng held Heda's face with both hands, feeling so relieved that she was about to cry. Her son had grown up, and although he did not have elegant clothes, he still looked like a gentle young master. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows were steady and reserved, and his exquisite facial features looked as if they were carved. He was resolute but not fierce, and belonged to the kind of warm man that people would feel was reliable and upright at one glance. "Congratulations, my baby." Heda smiled and retreated to the side. Jiaoyu took 2 steps forward and placed his front paw on Gu Mengmeng's knee. Then, he slowly transformed. When he turned into a human, he knelt on one knee and placed both hands on Gu Mengmeng's leg. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng with a smile on his lips, perfectly curved, and a pair of eyes that looked exactly like Gu Mengmeng's, glowing with amber light. Jiaoyu was different from Heda. Even if he was intentionally smiling so harmlessly, he still exuded a bad boy vibe. He was the kind of person who walked through the mortal world without a speck of dust. When faced with an innocent girl's confession, he would accept the love letter with a smile and say, "Miss, you are so pure, why do you want to get involved with me?" He clearly had a face full of sunshine, but no one would believe that he was really harmless. If he was in school, he would probably become the public enemy of all the boys in school. "Mummy, I have also evolved into a first-level orc." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her son's head and smiled. My son is really handsome." Elvis threw a piece of beast skin to Jiaoyu, and as he tied it, he asked, "Between me and Qi Xian, who is more handsome?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "All handsome. My sons are equally handsome." Jiaoyu did not buy it and pouted, "Forget it, I will not make things difficult for mother to lie." Qixuan's face is indeed blessed by the heavens. If not for the fact that they were born together, I would have suspected that he is Father Li's son. Elvis's face darkened. Did this mean that Leo was more handsome than him? Jiaoyu's gaze turned towards Elvis. Seeing that his face had darkened, the corners of his lips curled up in satisfaction. After all, he would have to move out after he became an adult. There wouldn't be many opportunities for him to cause trouble in the future. Jiaoyu took 2 steps back to make room for Kanwu. Kanwu shook the fur on his body and slowly transformed into his human form. He was half a head taller than his 2 brothers and was at least 1.9 to 2 meters tall, almost as tall as Elvis. He and Huda were the complete opposite of each other. His eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were like stars. His features were sharp, and even though he was still immature, he exuded a hint of heroism. It had to be said that even though Kanwu and Elvis were like fire and water, but just based on looks alone, he resembled Elvis the most. Without waiting for Elvis to throw the beast skin over, Kanwu pulled a piece of beast skin and tied it around his waist. He smiled. "Mummy, we have all evolved into first-level orcs. We can protect you better in the future." Aside from the topic. Chapter 953. Gu Mengmeng was extremely touched, but her heart ached at the same time. She remembered that Elvis had said that he had to go through all those hardships to reach adulthood at the age of 1. But her sons, back then, the 3 little ones had forcefully broken through to become half-orcs because of Ellie's provocation. It was like pulling up seedlings to help them advance, and it was very taxing on their bodies. Leah had also said that most children would reach adulthood at 2 or 3 years old, and the 3 brothers would only be able to accumulate enough energy to advance when they were 4 or 5 years old. But now, why did all 3 of her sons advance when she woke up from her sleep? Wabi, who had gone out to hunt, walked in through the rain. His tail was wrapped around 5 to 6 prey. They had died so horribly that their original faces could not be recognized. In the past, Gu Mengmeng would have screamed in fear. But after having Snake's memories. Haha. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had woken up, Wabi was slightly surprised. He threw the prey to one side and transformed back into human form. He moved closer to Gu Mengmeng and asked, "What did your father say?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "I can't say." Wabi sighed. This was the 3rd time he had heard this sentence, and he was already used to it. Then he asked, "What about him? Is he all right?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "Yeah, I got what I wanted." Wabi raised his brows. "Did he take you down?" The moment he asked that, Elvis and Leah tensed up. Gu Mengmeng could clearly see their ears pricking up. They were obviously waiting for Gu Mengmeng's reply. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and nodded. "He is over there. He has confirmed his relationship with the other me." Li's face darkened. He walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and asked plaintively, "He is your boyfriend?" Gu Mengmeng wanted to say that it was not her, but on second thought, it was clearly her. So she nodded, admitting it. Li's expression was grave. His eyes were filled with resentment. "Then what about me, you?" Gu Mengmeng did not understand. Leah said, "Elvis is your husband and I am your boyfriend. Now that Snake has snatched away my boyfriend status, what should I do?" Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing and said, "He is my boyfriend in another dimension, not the me in front of you." Leah said, "That won't do either. Go and tell father-in-law to break them up." A gust of cold air blew over. Wabi was already in a position to attack Leah. Gu Mengmeng glared at Wabi. "How dare you touch my man? I will turn you into snake soup." Without waiting for Wabi to retort, Gu Mengmeng held Li's face and kissed him. "You have long been my partner. Why are you still fighting for the boyfriend title?" Leah completely ignored Wabi. Indeed, he could not defeat him in a fight, but he had no intention of competing with that dumb snake. Right now, he was more concerned about his status by Gu Mengmeng's side, so he waved his furry tail and wrapped it around Gu Mengmeng's waist, stuffing it into her arms. He hugged Gu Mengmeng from behind so that her back was completely pressed against his chest. He rested his chin on her smooth shoulder and said, "Meng Meng, I want a status, a unique one." Wabi-Ai's eyes widened in shock. Gu Meng Meng took a deep breath and asked, "Hubby, how is it?" Leah was stunned for 2 seconds before asking, "What do you mean?" Gu Meng Meng said. That was how partners were addressed in the early days. Chapter 954. Later, Gu Meng Meng found out that it was Wabi-Ai who helped her 3 sons evolve. His method was simple and violent. He just dragged the 3 of them out and gave them a good beating every day. Males gained experience from battles. Lee's conservative estimate of 3 to 5 years was based on the fact that they only participated in hunting and only fought against wild beasts. Actually, Elvis and Leah could also be her sparring partners, but because Gu Meng Meng cared too much about her 3 sons, they would subconsciously show mercy during the battle. As a result, many attacks were ineffective and did not have the effect of accumulating experience. But Wabi-Ai was different. Snakes were naturally cold and indifferent. As for showing mercy, he did not understand it at all. He did not hold back at all when he beat the 3 little ones up. But apart from Gu Meng Meng herself, Wabi-Ai was the strongest fighter in the entire beast world. With such a high-level training partner, the 3 little ones' experience soared even if they just stood there and got beaten up. So in just 3.5 days, the 3 little ones broke through their limits and leveled up. After hearing the entire process, Gu Meng Meng did not say anything else. She just lifted the hide and put on her shoes. She hugged Wabi-Ai's neck and dashed into the rain. "Come, little shit. Let's have a good talk about life." Crack, 3 huge trees fell. Clang, a crater was smashed into the ground. Smack smack smack, rubble fell to the ground. A new cave was smashed into the side of the cave they were originally staying in. When Gu Meng Meng clapped her hands and returned from the cave, Leah used a piece of beast skin to carry her to the bonfire. Elvis had already returned to his original form and all the fur on his body was warmed up, allowing her to snuggle in his arms for warmth. The 3 little ones stood obediently in a row. They promised obediently that they would always listen to their mother and never make her angry. As for Wabi-Ai, he had not felt so good in a long time. He was sprawled in the newly created cave, reminiscing the wondrous feeling of being unable to move in pain. This heavy rain lasted for a full 9 days. On the 10th day, it finally cleared up. Gu Meng Meng felt that she would grow mushrooms if she stayed in the cave any longer. She stretched lazily under the sunlight before hanging back in Elvis's arms. The group continued on their way to Zacharias. Along the way, Gu Meng Meng suddenly laughed. Elvis asked her what she was laughing at. Gu Meng Meng replied, "It seems that ever since I got together with you, I don't need to bring my legs out anymore." Elvis chuckled and kissed Gu Meng Meng on the cheek without saying a word. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and asked, "Hubby, aren't you tired of hugging me all day? I feel like I've put on weight recently. It should be very heavy, right?" Elvis deeply remembered the scene when she threw a potato at him when he complimented her on being fat. Although it did not hurt, he could not bear to make her angry. But he had promised not to lie to her, and in reality, she was indeed a little fatter than when she first arrived in the beast world. Pursing his lips, Elvis replied, "It is indeed a little heavy, after all. I am carrying my entire world." Gu Meng Meng burst out laughing and kissed him on the cheek. "Hubby's mouth is so sweet." Elvis secretly heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, glad that he managed to muddle through. The place where they were taking shelter from the rain was not far from Zacharias' tribe. In addition, Gu Meng Meng was full of energy and the 3 little ones had already evolved into first-level orcs. Their speed and endurance had all improved, so they arrived at the stray beast camp on the 2nd night. Out of topic. Chapter 955. Ever since Gu Meng Meng temporarily stayed in the cave that Elvis had stayed in before winter, no stray beasts dared to approach it. Perhaps it was because the Beast King aura that Gu Meng Meng had left behind was too frightening, or because of Cole's words. Anyway, when Elvis and Leah brought Gu Meng Meng back, the place was exactly the same as when they had left. The cooking utensils and bedding were the same, and even their positions were the same. It was just that a layer of dust had accumulated and needed to be tidied up. Elvis and Leah were very satisfied that there was no other person's scent left in the cave. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and brought the three little ones to look for Peter and Natalie, while Leah stayed in the cave to clean up. And when they reached Natalie's cave, Gu Mengmeng was completely dumbfounded. Who could tell her what was going on with these 6 little ones? Her mother-in-law had given birth to a litter of cubs that were even younger than her sons. Hi. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt a little awkward. How should she introduce her mother-in-law to her sons? Come, sons, this pregnant lady is your grandmother and these 6 little ones are your uncles. Be good, call them uncles, imagining her sons, who looked to be 17 or 18 years old, calling the little ones who had not weaned off milk uncle. The scene was so beautiful that Gu Mengmeng could not accept it. But they were already standing here, and it would be inappropriate not to introduce them. Elvis seemed to have seen through Gu Mengmeng's thoughts, so he spoke for her. He pointed at his 3 sons and said, Heda, Jiaoyu, Kanwu. Natalie's body was already weak to begin with, and coupled with the fact that she had just given birth, she looked like she was suffering from a serious illness. But she was still very happy to see Elvis and the 3 little ones. So she propped herself up and leaned against Peter's chest. She smiled and greeted the 3 little ones. Hello, I am Natalie. Hello. The 3 little ones greeted politely, but did not add on any form of address. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips, not knowing how to express her current feelings. Elvis leaned close to her ear and whispered, the concept of kinship in the beast world is different from your world. Here, kinship only extends to the generation of parents and children. This meant that Natalie and Peter were my beast father and beast mother, but to Heda and his brothers, they were just Natalie and Peter. So you don't have to worry about those complicated seniority and kinship relationships. Upon hearing Elvis's words, Gu Mengmeng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It was really a happy thing that she didn't have to let her son call Milk Bun uncle. Peter had no intention of greeting the 3 little ones. He could only see Natalie and the 6 milk buns. They were all his and Natalie's children, but his attitude towards these 6 little ones and Elvis's was worlds apart. Luckily, Elvis did not expect much from this familial love, or else he would definitely be very upset now. Gu Mengmeng teased her brother-in-law and felt that he was extremely cute. She wanted to hug him but was stopped by Elvis, who asked with a cold face, Why, you want brothers to share the same wife? The corner of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched. She pointed at the 3 milk buns that were not even the size of a palm and said, Do you think I look like a pervert? When they grow up, they will look like me. Elvis paused for a moment before continuing, I haven't forgotten how you drooled over me when you first saw me. Out of topic, it's the last day of March, and the monthly pass expires tomorrow. Chapter 956. Before Gu Mengmeng could retort, Natalie smiled and said, If you like them, you can choose one and bring them back to raise. You can mate them directly after they reach adulthood. Gu Mengmeng gave a dry laugh and said, Are you sure they have a chance of living to adulthood after I bring them back? Natalie was taken aback and didn't seem to understand what Gu Mengmeng meant. Elvis's face darkened and he said, Only those who can survive from my hands have the right to become Xiaomeng's partner. Elvis's words made Natalie nervous, not because of the milk bun, but because of Elvis. She was afraid that Gu Mengmeng would hate Elvis for being so obviously jealous and obstructing females from taking in new partners. So the moment Elvis said that, Natalie immediately looked at Gu Mengmeng. She wanted to plead for mercy on Elvis's behalf, but her words got stuck in her throat when she saw Gu Mengmeng's smiling face. Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's face and kissed him. My hubby looks so handsome when he's jealous. Elvis's frosty face cracked in an instant, revealing endless gentleness and doting. He tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, I can be very handsome at other times too, so don't attract more love rivals for me. I can't promise you that, Gu Mengmeng said proudly, I am a natural-born beauty and I shine everywhere I go. I can't do anything about it when others want to stick to me the moment they see me. Looking at her smug look, Elvis felt helpless and at the same time very adorable. He pinched her little face and said, It's all right, Leah and I will strangle everyone who pounces on you to death one by one. Not a single one will be left alive. Hubby, you are so violent, so bloody and so cruel. But I like it so much." Elvis cupped the back of her head and planted a kiss on her brow. "Didn't you say you have important matters to discuss with them? If you don't want to say it, let's go back. Leah must be anxious waiting for us." Say it, say it." Gu Mengmeng snapped out of her shock at the fact that her brother-in-law was younger than her son. She looked at Peter and said, "I want to go to Zacharias' tribe to retrieve some things. I want to arrange for my son to stay here temporarily. Can you help me take care of him?" Peter didn't speak, but Natalie smiled and nodded. "No problem, I will keep an eye on them. I will fight to the death with whoever dares to harm a single strand of their hair." Now that Natalie had put it that way, Peter had no way out. No matter what, he couldn't let Natalie fight for her life, could he? Then he could only protect her. Gu Mengmeng grinned at Natalie. "Thank you." Natalie nodded at Gu Mengmeng, then turned to look at Peter. "I think I heard you mention the Zacharias tribe before. Are you familiar with it?" Peter nodded and said, "It is adjacent to my territory and we often fight. Their leader, Reynold, is an iron-fisted person. Although he's only at level 4, he's a difficult opponent. That's why I've tried my best not to provoke them all these years. It's not that I can't beat them, but it's too troublesome to deal with the aftermath." Peter looked at Gu Mengmeng, then at Natalie. He sighed and said, "I know why you want to go to Zacharias. I will accompany you." Gu Mengmeng. Peter said, "You saved Natalie. I owe you my life. I have to repay you eventually, so there's no need to drag it out for too long." Chapter 957. But before Gu Mengmeng could open her mouth, Natalie interrupted. "Just let him go with you. He has more dealings with the Zacharias tribe. It will be more convenient with him around." Gu Mengmeng thought about it and agreed. After all, a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake. And Peter was clearly the most powerful local snake in this area. With him around, Leonard would have to think twice before trying anything funny. Offending both the messenger of the beast deity and the stray beasts at the same time was equivalent to going up against the strongest forces in both the black and white worlds. Would a mere Zacharias tribe have the ability to handle 2 battlefields? Nodding, Gu Mengmeng said, "Then I will have to trouble you." Peter didn't say anything else and Elvis couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on them. Hence, he carried Gu Mengmeng and brought the 3 little ones back to their own cave. Due to the heavy rain, they had been delayed for a long time. Hence, Gu Mengmeng and the rest didn't spend too much time resting and set off for Zacharias the next morning. The stray beast's main camp was not far from Zacharias. Hence, before noon, Gu Mengmeng, Elvis, Leah, Wabi and Peter had already reached the borders of Zacharias' tribe's territory. Perhaps it was because they had fought with stray beasts for many years, but Zacharias' sense of territory was much more obvious than Saint Nazir's or even Sauter's. They had purposely left an empty strip of land in the middle of the forest. It was about 2 meters of empty soil, without any trees or flowers. Gu Mengmeng and the rest stood on one side of the strip, while the other side was patrolling orcs. Their patrols were not chaotic and unobstructed, nor were they independent. Instead, they were coordinated and interconnected. Gu Mengmeng glanced over and smiled softly. This formation gave off the feeling of an ancient army camp. It was just that all the knives, spears, swords and halberds had been replaced with sharp claws and fangs. She took a step forward and stepped into the strip of land. The alarmed beasts stepped forward to block Gu Mengmeng. Perhaps they had never seen Gu Mengmeng before, but Gu Mengmeng's looks made her stand out. Coupled with Elvis and Leah, one in black and one in white, this iconic combination had already revealed their identities. Moreover, a 5th-grade snake beast, could there be a second one in this world? Gu Mengmeng's eyes were full of smiles. She placed her elbow on Elvis's shoulder and rested her chin on her palm. Using the fact that Elvis was hugging her, she was able to look down at the males from a higher position. Her lips curved into a playful smile as she said, "Your tribe leader invited me over just to give me the cold shoulder?" The person who stopped her bowed to Gu Mengmeng and said, "The great messenger can enter any time, but others cannot. Oh. Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and said, ever since I came to the beast world, this is the first time someone dares to set rules for me. Please forgive us, Lord Emissary. The beast man guard said, but he did not move half a step away. He had no intention of retreating. Gu Mengmeng seemed to understand what Peter meant when he said offending Zacharias was a very troublesome matter. Looking at the 5 people on his side, there was a messenger of the beast deity with the strength of a beast king, 3 5th-level beasts and 1 4th-level beast. Who wouldn't get cramps after seeing such a lineup? However, a mere guard was able to stop them in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. It could be seen how well-trained he was and how strict his military orders were. Chapter 958. The guard didn't say a word and just stood there, flashing his sharp claws. Gu Mengmeng raised her brows and asked with a smile, "You think you can stop me?" The guard shook his head honestly and said, "Just us alone can't stop any one of you. You clearly know you can't stop me, yet you still want to flash your claws in front of me?" Gu Mengmeng asked. The guard still nodded and said, "Our duty is to guard this place. Unless we die, we will definitely not allow outsiders to step into the tribe." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and pointed at her nose, saying, "But I am also an outsider, why can I go in?" The guard still stood there like a soldier and looked at Gu Mengmeng as he replied, "The great messenger represents the beast deity. All the tribes in the beast world are your tribes and all the orcs are your people. So you can enter and leave as you wish and are not considered an outsider." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Oh, so I am of the privileged class." The guard didn't know what the privileged class was and so didn't reply and just stood there. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, "I don't want to make things difficult for you. The person who went to report the news should be back soon, right? Let's wait for Leonard to come back first." Every tribe had its own rules. Although no one could stop her if she barged in, Gu Mengmeng felt that there was no need to bully the weak. Moreover, among the few masters around her, other than Peter, the other 3 could not bear to see her suffer any grievances. Now that she had been slighted at the gates of Zacharias, all she had to do was give the word and these guards would be beaten to a pulp. They were just doing their duty and there was no need to be so ruthless. Fortunately, Leonard and Nick quickly came out to welcome her. When they saw Gu Mengmeng, they immediately bowed and apologized, saying, "Great messenger, please forgive us. It was Leonard who made the wrong arrangements and slighted the great messenger." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "No matter, then, can we go in now?" Leonard looked up at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Great messenger and your partners can enter Zacharias, but stray beasts cannot. As long as one of us in Zacharias is still breathing, we will not allow stray beasts to step into our territory." Gu Mengmeng raised her brows and laughed coldly, saying, "You mean, if we all want to go in, we have to exterminate your tribe?" "Yes," Reynold answered honestly. Gu Mengmeng was still smiling. She looked at everyone on her side, then at Leonard. "Then how long do you think it will take for us to exterminate your tribe?" Reynold was very clear about the battle strength of his tribe, and the opponent's strength was right in front of him. After a moment of consideration, Reynold said, "Half a day." Gu Mengmeng asked, "Which is more important, your principles or Zacharias' half a day of life?" Reynold paused for a moment. When he raised his head again, he was extremely determined. Principles are principles. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. We would rather die in battle than let the stray beasts touch our tribe. Chapter 959. In fact, Wabi had the ability to do so. Apart from Gu Mengmeng, no one else in the beast world could suppress Wabi. Even if they were both 5th-level warriors, Elvis might be able to severely injure Wabi if he fought with all his might, but he would not be able to kill him. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands. "Little shit, calm down. I promised to bring you out to play. Why would I abandon you? Am I such a disloyal person? Isn't that so?" Although Wabi was unwilling, he still nodded and admitted that Gu Mengmeng was a loyal person. Gu Mengmeng comforted Wabi, then looked at Leonard. "Since it is not convenient for my friend to enter Zacharias, we do not have to." Just tell me the location of the soul of the forest here and we will head there directly. This. Leonard seemed to be in a difficult position, as if he had something he could not say. Gu Mengmeng was in no hurry to rush him. She just nestled in Elvis's arms and looked at him, waiting for him to speak. Leonard. A sweet voice floated over from afar. Gu Mengmeng clearly saw Leonard's expression change. He immediately turned his head and curled the corners of his lips out of reflex. He did not look like the iron-fisted person he had been a moment ago. Looking towards the direction of the voice, she saw a female sitting on the back of a tiger. 4 males stood by her side, each holding onto the 4 horns of an unknown beast's hide to shield her from the sun. And the female sitting on the back of the tiger was different from ordinary females on land. She was a very beautiful female. Her long, curly hair floated casually in the wind and her exquisite features were as beautiful as a porcelain doll's. This female gave Gu Mengmeng a sense of déjà vu. She could not tell who she looked like, but her aura was a little like Melinda. However, Melinda's eyes were clearer than hers, unlike Melinda's eyes which were full of flirtatiousness. Gu Mengmeng had seen the hide she was wearing before. It was the skin of a white fox. Leah had hunted it for her in the past. She felt awkward wearing it, as if she was wearing Lee's skin. She had never worn it again. Leah knew she did not like it and did not hunt any more white fox skins for her. But Gu Mengmeng knew that white foxes were rare and very cunning. Not to mention hunting them, even finding them depended on luck and ability. Many females felt proud of having a piece of white fox fur, feeling that they were a cut above others. Looking at Reynolds' attitude toward her, he didn't even have to guess to know what their relationship was. Dora, why did you come out? Reynolds walked towards the female, but stopped a step away. It was as if he was afraid that his clumsy hands would hurt her. Dora smiled warmly and pointed at the group standing on the barricade. The messenger and her partners are our invited guests. Although Wabi is a stray beast, he is also a representative of the Snake King Valley. Since he has the intention to reconcile, how can we block them outside? Hurry up and let everyone in, don't neglect the guests. But Reynolds frowned, as if he was very hesitant. He did not look like he was facing death calmly when he rejected Gu Mengmeng. He was clearly wavering. Dora gently placed her hand on her abdomen. She looked up at Reynolds with watery eyes. The messenger is the daughter of the mighty beast deity. If she pleads for me, perhaps the mighty beast deity will forgive me. Then I will have the chance to get pregnant and give birth to your cubs. Don't you want a child that belongs to us? I beg you, all right? Chapter 960. Dora. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and looked at Wabi. If I remember correctly, the female mermaid who tried to harm Melinda in the ocean was called Dora. Wabi nodded. Seems like it. Gu Mengmeng smiled. Do you think it is her? Wabi shrugged. It makes no difference whether I love her or not. That's true. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to dwell on this issue. She just treated it as a casual conversation and didn't take it to heart. Leonard returned to Gu Mengmeng and bowed to her. Then, he gestured for her to enter. Great messenger, this way please. Gu Mengmeng nodded but didn't reply. The group walked to the center of the tribe and saw a towering pagoda made of logs. It was stained with a thick layer of blood, which gave off a dim glow under the sunlight and emitted a fishy smell. Gu Mengmeng frowned. She pointed at the pagoda. This is a female who just came of age? Leonard nodded. Yes, there is a female in the tribe who just came of age last night. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists as she thought of the so-called campfire party that Elvis and Leah had prepared for her. Her temples throbbed. She must find a chance to get rid of this custom, it was too unacceptable to others. Wabi and Peter didn't know what Gu Mengmeng thought of the pagoda. But Elvis and Leah knew that it was an eyesore to Gu Mengmeng. They exchanged glances and didn't mention the pagoda. Instead, it was Leah who stepped forward and sized up Dora, who was sitting on the white tiger. You are Dora? Leah had a formal smile on his face. The curvature of his lips looked as if he had practiced it thousands of times, accurately presenting a distant yet polite smile on his face. Males were always on their guard against other males approaching their females, even if the other party was a mated orc. Moreover, Leah was just too good-looking. Leonard couldn't ignore the surprise in Dora's eyes when she saw him. They were both fourth-level orcs. Leonard stepped forward to stand between Dora and Leah. But Leah just smiled. He covered his lips and looked at Leonard with raised brows. "Are you guarding against me?" Reynolds neither admitted nor denied it. He just stood there motionlessly. Laughing softly, Leah took a step back lazily. "You don't have to do this. I don't fancy her." Leonard knew that she was the messenger of the beast deity and acknowledged her beauty. However, he still felt very uncomfortable when his own female was described as not good enough for me. He wanted to retort but could not find the right words. He clenched his fists and had the urge to fight Leah. The great emissary is the daughter of the beast god. Naturally, she is the best in the world. Dora tugged on Leonard's arm gently and extinguished the fire in Leonard's chest with just a glance. She then continued, "Lord Leah is the male of the messenger, so he naturally would not be interested in a lowly female like Dora." Leonard didn't mean anything else, please don't take offense. "You are not lowly." Reynolds clenched his fists and frowned at Dora. His face was full of heartache. Chapter 961. Leah could not be bothered with their flirting. He just waved his tail and said, "I went to the seaside previously and heard that there was a female mermaid named Dora." Leah dragged out his last word as his gaze landed on Dora. He did not finish his sentence, but it was obvious that he was inquiring. Dora did not avoid it. She nodded and said, "I think the Dora that Lord Leah heard about should be me." "Oh, not necessarily. I heard that Dora stole a treasure from the giant fish tribe and even framed her own tribe's princess. I heard that she was imprisoned as a tribe slave." Lee's every word agitated Leonard's nerves. Chuckling, Lee's gaze swept across Leonard's flushed face and he cursed silently, "Let's see how long you can hold it in." "Yes, I was sold as a tribe slave." Dora's little hand held onto Leonard's arm and she said, "Leonard bought me and brought me back here." "Oh, so it really is you. You really live up to the word lowly." Leah purposely poked at Leonard's heart and said in a seemingly nonchalant manner, "You." Leonard wanted to explode, but he only managed to say one word before he was interrupted by Lee's next words. "Only females who commit grave mistakes will be imprisoned as tribe slaves. I guess you must have suffered a lot before you were brought back here." Leah looked at the dense mating marks on Dora's body and chuckled. "Do you want to wash these clean?" Dora's eyes widened and she looked at Leah with an urgent gaze. Leonard said, "You have a way?" His heart ached for Dora, who felt inferior because of the countless mating marks on her body. Those nightmarish days tormented her every moment and he wanted to free her from them. Leah nodded and chuckled. "Defeat me and I will tell you." Leonard had been wanting Leah since the beginning. How could he hesitate after hearing him say that? He did not even maintain his human form and immediately transformed into a white tiger to pounce on Leah. Leah had received professional training in solder and had learned how to fight stray beasts during his days wandering outside. In addition to the many years of battle experience he had accumulated from cooperating with Elvis, he was able to handle beasts of the same level with ease. As for Leonard's attacks, they were ferocious but not skillful enough. He was often misled by Leah into making wrong judgments. For example, the claws that slapped the wooden pagoda, dong. Gudong gudong, a log rolled down, and the wooden tower that lost its balance collapsed in an instant. Leah dodged nimbly, but Leonard was stunned for a second and a half. Just that 1.5 seconds made him lose the upper hand and look very pathetic. In the end, he was even struck in the waist by a log and lay on the ground for a long time before he could stand up. Leah returned to Gumengmeng's side and rested his arm on Elvis's shoulder. His furry tail landed in Gumengmeng's arms. His long and affectionate eyes were filled with slyness as he said, I say, tribe leader Leonard, no matter how anxious you are to find a prescription for her, you shouldn't have toppled the bonfire wooden pagoda used for her coming-of-age ceremony. How inauspicious, TSK, aren't you going to call someone over to tidy up this place? Those who don't know better would think that we have entered some abandoned tribe. It's a wasteland full of ruins. Chapter 962. With a look from Leonard, Nick hurriedly arranged for men to move the scattered logs away. But Leah acted like nothing had happened as he hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin with a fawning smile. He didn't say anything and just smiled. Gu Mengmeng knew that he didn't want to see her in a bad mood because of that wooden pagoda. She chuckled. This is someone else's territory after all. Leah looked at Elvis and didn't reply. Elvis said in a low voice, half a day, he said too much. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in confusion. Leah explained kindly, destroy Zacharias and turn this place into our territory. If it was just me and Elvis, it would indeed take half a day. But if he is included, ha. Leah pointed at Wabi, who tilted his head lazily. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and asked, do we destroy them? Gu Mengmeng guaranteed that as long as she nodded or smiled, Wabi would sweep through the entire Zacharias like a wild horse. He just had to transform into his original form and roll around on the ground. Then, there would be nothing left but pancakes, the kind with no skin and only meat. Gu Mengmeng stretched out her hand. Calm down, everyone calm down. Wabi looked disappointed. Can't we fight? TSK, so boring. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. She turned back to look at Leah. We are here for official business. Leah shrugged. Expanding the tribe's territory is also official business. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. She wasn't used to the beast world style of snatching anything they liked. In order not to cause any more trouble, Gu Mengmeng dusted off her hands and looked at Leonard. Sorry, the males in my family don't have good tempers. So you better get straight to the point. Where is the soul of the forest? Then, we will set off. Otherwise, they won't be able to control themselves and really flatten your territory. Leonard wanted to retort that Zacharias was a powerful tribe and wouldn't be defeated so easily. But after exchanging blows with Leah, he clearly realized that he had overestimated himself by saying, half a day. Leah was the weakest in the entire team. He was clearly of the same level as him, but he had been fooled by him. Peter was the leader of the stray beasts. The fifth-level beasts in Zacharias had fought with him many times, but there were very few times where they had the upper hand. Elvis had always been known for his ruthlessness. Back then, when he was only a fourth level, he led his tribesmen to battle with 3 fifth-level beasts from Sauter. Not only did he level up during the battle, he even defeated them completely, causing 2 of Sauter's original 3 fifth-level beasts to die and 1 to be crippled. As for that Wabi, he was a myth and legend second only to Snake, so it was impossible to predict how strong he was. All he knew was that his legs were trembling uncontrollably just by looking into his eyes. Even though he was used to pretending to be calm, this pretense might be able to fool others, but it was impossible to fool himself. However, the strongest battle power was not these 4 perverted males, but the little female who was always smiling in Elvis's arms. Being unfathomable was the most terrifying thing. Fear, he was truly afraid. However, he had a reason not to retreat. Chapter 963. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and propped her chin on one hand. Instead of answering, she asked, are you in a position to negotiate with me now? Yes, he didn't seem to have any bargaining chips to negotiate with Gu Mengmeng. Zacharias had taken in the tribesmen who had ambushed the Snake King Valley. Wabi was the new leader of the Snake King Valley and an unrestrained stray beast. It was only natural for him to wipe out Zacharias today. Moreover, in the beast world, power was the law. Not to mention that he was in the right now. Even if he wasn't, who would dare to criticize him for destroying Zacharias on a whim? Clenching his fists, Leonard put on a determined look. If the great messenger doesn't agree, I would rather the entire Zacharias tribe be slaughtered than tell you the location of the soul of the forest. Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips. I thought you were a good tribe leader. So you are someone who can abandon your tribe and tribesmen for your own selfish reasons. Ha, that's true. Every man for himself will be destroyed. But I am still traumatized by your threats. So I am very dissatisfied with your attitude when negotiating with me. Before Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence, Peter had already grabbed Dora by the neck. The speed of a 5th-level orc was not something that the 2nd-level beast skin umbrellas beside Dora could see clearly. Even a 4th-level beast like Leonard couldn't react in time. Looking at Dora's flushed face, Leonard clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Dora, don't be afraid. Once I settle down my tribesmen, I will come and accompany you. Does that mean you can die in peace? Gu Mengmeng raised her brows and looked at Leonard as if he was a heartless man. How should she put it? Ever since she came to the beast world, most of the males she had seen were the type who valued females more than anything else. Let's put it this way. If someone grabbed her by the neck, even if Elvis and Leah had to personally slaughter Saint Nazir, they wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Even if the so-called slaughter included the two of them, as long as it could be exchanged for her safety, these two idiots would slice themselves into mutton slices, the kind that could be used in a hot pot. Snake even did this personally, just to prevent her from suffering the pain of the poison, just to protect her pair of legs. He actually cut open his own chest and dug out his own snake gallbladder for her. But Leonard, his eyes were about to bleed. It was clear that he didn't care. Heh, I can endure it, but not normal people. Gu Mengmeng gave Peter a look and he loosened his grip on Dora's neck slightly, allowing her to breathe. Reynold. Dora called out softly with a sobbing tone. Leonard didn't dare to move, afraid that he would agitate Peter into snapping Dora's neck. He could only turn to look at Gu Mengmeng. Great messenger, no matter what, Dora is a precious female. Please don't hurt her. I promised to use the soul of the forest in exchange for letting bygones be bygones, but now I've suddenly added conditions. It's my fault. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can vent it directly on me. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Leonard, I respect you as a man and will give you a chance. Tell me, what are the conditions you want to discuss with me? The veins on Leonard's arm were about to burst. Gu Mengmeng knew that he must really want to fight Peter to save Dora. But he also knew that it was wishful thinking for him to save Dora under such circumstances. So he endured. Out of topic, well, today's update is over. Chapter 964. Leonard stood up and looked at Gu Mengmeng. First, great messenger, please accept all the tribesmen of Zacharias, including the former tribesmen who ambushed the Snake King Valley. Let them become members of Saint Nazir and be protected by the great messenger. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. You mean to disband Zacharias? Reynold took a deep breath and replied, yes, I am. Without the soul of the forest, Zacharias has no meaning to exist. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and remained silent for a moment. Instead of answering Leonard, she asked, since that's the case, why did you raise this condition in the first place? Leonard knew he couldn't hide it from her and he didn't want to either. The stray beast Cole once threatened me. If I didn't do as he said, he would destroy the entire tribe of Zacharias. Cole again, what did he threaten you with? Gu Mengmeng asked in a seemingly nonchalant manner. Leonard frowned. He couldn't help feeling humiliated at the thought of being threatened by a stray beast. But in order to seek protection for his tribesmen, he had to be honest no matter how humiliating it was. So he suppressed his rising and falling chest and said, he asked me to accept a portion of the tribesmen without a tribe, then go to Sodor to seek peace with you in exchange for the soul of the forest. He also promised that as long as I can do these two things, Zacharias will not be attacked by stray beasts for 100 years and can rest. Since you have already done what he asked of you, why not enjoy this 100 years of peace? Gu Mengmeng asked. Leonard answered without hiding anything. I don't trust the words of the stray beasts. I am more willing to hand the tribe over to the great messenger. Firstly, after you obtain the soul of the forest, we will also be protecting the soul of the forest by staying by your side. Secondly, I can't let my tribesmen live under the whims of the stray beasts. Gu Mengmeng nodded, agreeing to the first condition. Then, she asked, what is the second condition? Leonard said, when the great messenger goes to retrieve the soul of the forest, please bring me along. I want to know what the thing that Zacharias has been protecting for thousands of years looks like. Gu Mengmeng nodded and agreed. And the third condition? Only then did Leonard turn around and look at Dora. His eyes were filled with pity as he said, Lord Messenger, please pardon Dora and cleanse her of the humiliation. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and said with a troubled expression, what if I don't agree? Reynold clenched his teeth, clenched his fists, and said, as long as Lord Emissary is willing to agree to these 3 conditions, Reynold will be Lord Emissary's dog in the future. If the Lord Emissary doesn't agree, then Zacharias would rather die than live in dishonor. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, Io, you really know how to talk nonsense. Unfortunately, I really can't agree to the third condition because I can't do it at all. Leonard was stunned and his gaze shifted to Leah. He had originally wanted Gu Mengmeng to agree to the first 2 conditions, but because Leah had brought this up, he added the third condition at the last minute. But now the messenger of the beast deity said she could not do it. Leah caressed Gu Mengmeng's little hand and kissed it. You don't have to look at me. If my Mengmeng says I can't do it, then I can't. Even if I can, I won't do it. Digression, today, he had wanted to write grand finale in the title. Come on. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. Such a joke might cause the brakes to malfunction and cause my little baby to fall. Chapter 965. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in surprise. You can do it? Leah hesitated for a moment and didn't reply. He just smiled at Gu Mengmeng. Do you wish for me to do it or not? That meant he could do it. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and pinched Lee's arm lightly. She then turned to Leonard. All right, I agree to your 3 conditions. Gu Mengmeng had just finished her sentence and before Leonard could say his thanks, Dora, who had been silent all this while, struggled to speak. Wait, her voice was dry and suffocating from Peter's grip on her neck. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands. Peter walked back to Gu Mengmeng's side as if nothing had happened. After regaining her freedom, Dora lay on the white tiger's back, panting heavily. After a long while, she finally looked up at Gu Mengmeng. I want to change the third condition. Gu Mengmeng lifted her chin at Dora. To be honest, Gu Mengmeng didn't have a good impression of Dora. The reason was simple. Gu Mengmeng liked Melinda. She hated anyone who bullied Melinda. But hating someone didn't mean she had to kill them. As long as they didn't come looking for trouble, Gu Mengmeng could turn a blind eye to them most of the time. But since she had spoken, Gu Mengmeng wanted to hear what kind of wish Dora, who had suggested Carter to imprison Melinda, would wish for. Hence, Gu Mengmeng said without any emotion, tell me. Because Peter had just strangled Dora, her eyeballs were popping out. The red mark on her neck was so obvious that Peter really didn't have a shred of pity for any other female. But Dora didn't seem to care. I want a male. Give him to me. Damn. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her chin. In any case, she could be considered as a beautiful flower, right? Did she look like a human trafficker? Lady, I'm sorry. I don't do human trafficking. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. Leonard frowned. His eyes, which had been bloodshot from worry and anger, were now filled with desolation and sorrow. He stood rooted to the spot and stared at Dora. He asked in a trembling voice, You still can't let him go, right? Dora turned back and bit her lip. I will never be able to let go of him. You, obviously know. Reynolds sighed and smiled bitterly. I know. Reynolds was a strong and imposing man, but in that instant, it was as if a mountain had collapsed. He looked dispirited and a little pathetic. He clenched his fists and slowly unclenched them. He gently held Dora's shoulders and said, Let the messenger help you wash these off first. Then, I will go and capture him for you. You're so beautiful, so good, he won't refuse you. Duo La's eyes were red. She had not cried even when she was almost strangled to death, but now she was crying her eyes out. She said, "You know it's impossible, don't you? I have always left the position of first partner for him, but he has never looked back at me. Now that I'm dirty, he won't like me even more." "Even so, you still want him?" Leonard asked as he wiped away her tears. "Yes." Dora gritted her teeth and said, "Even if my body is filthy now, I still left this spot on my chest for him, didn't I? I want him, I must have him. Even if he doesn't love me, even if he hates me, even if I have to imprison him to keep him by my side, I still want him. Even if he dies, his corpse can only be mine. Digression, I like you. Ha, don't let your imagination run wild. That's why the first sentence is fake. Of course, the second sentence is also fake." Chapter 966. Dora tugged at her collar. Only then did Gu Mengmeng realize that although her body was covered in dense layers of marks, only her chest was empty. It looked like she was really determined to give it to someone. But, even if she had to imprison him, even if he died, his corpse would still be hers. Why did these words sound so creepy? Gu Mengmeng had thought that in the beast world, only males would have such a perverted view of love, and females would not be like that. It seemed like she was wrong. "Leonard, I beg you, just let me be willful this once. I will only be willful this once in my entire life." Dora cried as she threw herself into Leonard's arms, her heart throbbing painfully. Leonard finally couldn't bear to reject her. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Messenger, please grant me my wish and give that person to her." Gu Mengmeng naturally wouldn't trade someone else's life. She was just a little curious, so she asked, "The male you want is?" "Fei Rui." Dora said the name word by word, her voice trembling. "Fei Rui?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "I'm sorry, Fei Rui, cannot be given to you." "Why? Why not?" Dora was very agitated. Her eyes widened to almost twice their original size. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "Because, in exchange for saving his sister, he gave himself to me. He is now in Saint Nazaire, waiting for me to mate with him when I am in a good mood. How can I give my male to you?" Dora's body went limp and she collapsed into Leonard's arms, muttering to herself, "How could this be? How could this be?" Gu Mengmeng clapped her hands and said, "What should I do? I can't seem to fulfill your 3 conditions. So you are not going to give me the soul of the forest? Then I will be leaving." With that, Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulder. Elvis turned to leave without any hesitation. "Wait." Leonard called out to Gu Mengmeng and said, "Since Fei Rui is the great messenger's male, we naturally don't dare to covet him. Then, great messenger, please abide by the first 3 conditions." He had to leave a way out for the tribesmen of Zacharias. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah and he whispered into her ear, "Let me eat fish when we go back and I will wash the filth off her body." Gu Mengmeng knew that the fish Leah mentioned was definitely referring to a certain mermaid, but now was not the time to explain. She cupped Lee's face and kissed him, saying, "We'll talk about it when we get back." Leah did not reject her. He just walked to Dora's side and sized her up. "From tomorrow onwards, collect the dew on the leaves before sunrise and fill 2 stone bowls. Place the water bowl on the platform of the deity's punishment in your tribe. When we get the soul of the forest back, I will open the altar and offer it to the heavens to wash away her filth." Leonard nodded, then supported the sobbing Dora with both hands and said, "Good girl, don't be sad. Go back with them first and have a good sleep. No matter how long you need to forget him, I will wait with you." Dora didn't say anything. She didn't even give Leonard any reaction. She just let the tiger carry her as they walked back. After walking for a distance, Dora gripped the tiger's fur tightly. Her eyes were filled with venom and viciousness. Chapter 967. On the other side, after Leonard watched Dora leave, he instructed Witch Doctor Nick on a few matters regarding the tribe's management. Then, he came before Gu Mengmeng and bowed. "All right, mighty messengers, we can set off now. Gu Mengmeng nodded without saying a word. She let Leonard lead the way while Gu Mengmeng and the rest followed behind him. Gu Mengmeng didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Leonard was leading them in circles around the Zacharias tribe. But every circle seemed a little different. Could it be that lonely old man from her family had set up a diversion? Gu Mengmeng had her suspicions but didn't voice them out. After walking for half a day, the moon was already high up in the sky and the stars were few and far between. Leonard finally stopped and said, "It's here. But we can only see the entrance tomorrow morning." Gu Mengmeng nodded as a reply. Leonard said, "The terrain here is a little complicated. Don't move around recklessly. I will go hunting." Without waiting for Gu Mengmeng to respond, Leonard had already left. Peter was still worried about him, so after giving Elvis a look, he followed Leonard away, in the name of helping. After the two of them left, Elvis and Leah, who had been holding back the entire journey, finally exploded. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's waist and said with a serious expression, "You've already thought it through? Find a time to mate after returning to Saint Nazaire?" No. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands in denial. Leah opened his mouth and bit Gu Mengmeng's left ear. He used a little force, leaving a bite mark but not breaking the skin. His long and narrow eyes were filled with jealousy as he said, "I knew you were interested in that fellow. Back then, when he hurt my face, not only did you not blame him, you even protected him and blamed me for blocking the well with a rock to prevent him from coming out. Why? Now, you don't like my face anymore? You've changed your preferences. Do you care about that bland and inexperienced fellow now?" No. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin. His deep blue eyes were filled with an unfathomable depth. His voice was low and filled with a murderous aura. "You didn't give me or Leah the position of your heart. Are you going to give it to him?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis. No, Leah said, I remember that you said you liked his eyes and said they were like bright stars. Since you like it, how about I dig it out and give it to you? If you take the eyes, don't like him anymore." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. "Calm down, can you listen to my explanation?" Elvis and Leah kept their mouths shut, the words "please start your performance" clearly written on their faces. Gu Mengmeng was already mentally prepared. From the moment she said those words in front of Duola, she knew that she would definitely upset the two big vinegar vats in the house. Hence, she did not panic and just said, "I don't like Fei Roy and Fei Roy has no such intentions towards me. The only reason I said that was because I couldn't bear to see Fei Roy, who was a good cabbage, be taken away by Dora. How about this, once we return to Saint Nazaire, I will chase Fei Roy back into the sea. If he doesn't scram, I will personally make him into sweet and sour fish slices. How about that?" Actually, Elvis and Leah knew that there was nothing going on between Gu Mengmeng and Fei Roy. Chapter 968. But knowing was one thing. Hearing Gu Mengmeng admit that another male belonged to her still made Elvis and Leah feel disgusted. Gu Mengmeng also knew this, but she couldn't think of a better reason to reject Dora, so she just said it casually. It was precisely because she really didn't have any other feelings for Fei Roy that she dared to say such things in front of Elvis and Leah. If she liked Fei Roy even a little, she would definitely not say it in front of them. She would just extinguish the little flame in her heart as soon as possible. But luckily, she was already very satisfied with Elvis and Leah, and no longer had any strange thoughts about other males. Gu Mengmeng coaxed Elvis and Leah for a long time with her honeyed words, and even promised repeatedly that she would never admit another male as hers, before they reluctantly let her off. But, Leah gently hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin and said, "Mengmeng, although what you said today was not true, it is true that I am upset. You clearly promised me that I would be your last partner, but you don't care about my feelings and even said in front of everyone that you want to take Fei Roy. My heart, it hurts so much." "I care, how can I not care about your feelings?" Gu Mengmeng caressed Lee's chest with her little hand. But Leah didn't buy it. He tilted his head and said, "If you care about everything with your mouth, what about mute people?" Gu Meng Meng, Leah inched forward and said, if you love me, do it for me to see. Gu Meng Meng thought for a moment, then stretched out her two little hands to form a heart. Li's hand held onto Gu Meng Meng's little arm gently. Then, the two fingers of his other hand were like the two legs of a little person, walking along Gu Meng Meng's wrist step by step. That pair of long and narrow eyes followed his fingers all the way up, past her smooth shoulders, across her fair neck, and then gently caressing her cheeks. Finally, their gazes met and he said, you know very well that I'm not talking about this, right? Gu Meng Meng was completely stunned. They had been partners for more than a year, how could she not know what Leah was hinting at? Let's talk about it when we return to Saint Nazir after obtaining the soul of the forest. This is the wilderness. Leah looked down and said, you and Elvis only did it once in the wilderness, why can't you do it with me? Yes, she and Elvis did do it once on the way to the beauty pageant. But now, Gu Meng Meng still couldn't stop blushing. Shaking his head, he decisively refused, no, we still have business tomorrow morning. We have to conserve our strength. Leah, are you doubting my stamina? Meng Meng was, Gu Meng Meng was stunned. Every time that happened, it would only end after she fainted. She had never seen where Leah and Elvis's stamina was at. She, Ling, Yang and Mied, Meng Meng got it. By the time she finished speaking, Leonard and Peter had already returned with their prey. Gu Meng Meng used her eyes to plead for mercy. Leah ground his teeth. Promise us that you will compensate us after we return to Saint Nazir. Gu Meng Meng hurriedly agreed and this matter was finally over. Chapter 969. What made Gu Meng Meng completely sober was the strange scene that appeared in front of her. The trees on both sides were intertwining at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if many pairs of hands were intertwining above their heads, forming a shady archway. The door was filled with white mist, giving off a familiar feeling. Gu Meng Meng narrowed her eyes and thought to herself, could it be that she would see her lonely old man sitting on the long bench watching television if she walked in through this door? Filled with doubts, Elvis had already carried Gu Meng Meng into the arched door. The fog blocked their vision and even if Gu Meng Meng was in Elvis's arms, she could not even see his face, let alone others. Hubby? Gu Meng Meng tried calling out. Elvis instinctively tightened his grip on Gu Meng Meng's hand, his voice echoing just inches away from her, yeah, I'm here. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and called again, Leah. A hand accurately held onto Gu Meng Meng's arm and a gentle voice soothed Gu Meng Meng's uneasiness. I'm here too. Gu Meng Meng heaved a sigh of relief and shouted again, where are the others? Are they all here? After receiving Wabi, Peter and Leonard's replies, Gu Meng Meng felt much more at ease. As he walked into the depths of the white fog, he could only rely on his body's senses to blindly confirm that he was heading inwards. Everywhere was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he couldn't tell the direction at all. Perhaps, this was all thanks to the lonely old man and her family. Every time she went to see him, there would always be this white fog. After a few times, she had gotten used to it. Otherwise, she would be even more uneasy now. Clattering sounds came from all directions. They were very soft and hard to distinguish. Gu Meng Meng's hearing was very good now, and with Snake's 1,000 years of memories, there should be nothing in the beast world that she could not distinguish. But she had no impression of this voice at all. Leonard, how much do you know about the soul of the forest? Reynold, what the patriarch has passed down from generation to generation is that there is only one entrance. Our clansmen have never been here before. In other words, he only knew how to find the entrance. He didn't have much more information than Lin Li. Damn, he really brought a spectator in. Xiao Meng, why don't we guard you while you take a nap? Elvis asked. Gu Meng Meng knew that Elvis meant for her to look for the beast deity to ask if there was any way to solve this white fog, so she directly replied, I asked the last time and my father said that I am capable enough to deal with this problem. The deeper they went into the white fog, the clearer the rattling sound became. It also became sharper, as if it was issuing some sort of warning. Leah and Leonard were the first to have trouble breathing, but as they were separated by the white fog, Gu Mengmeng didn't notice anything wrong with them. It was only until her left ear started to hurt that she instinctively asked, "Leah, what's wrong with you?" Leah shook his head, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. "Leah?" Gu Mengmeng questioned. Leah then recalled that they could not see each other in the white fog, so Gu Mengmeng naturally could not see him shaking his head. He wanted to tell her that he was fine, that he was fine. But when he opened his mouth, no words came out. Chapter 970. Leah could not say a word. The suffocating feeling was as if someone was squeezing his throat and stuffing countless cotton balls into his lungs. But he did not want Gu Mengmeng to worry, so he just squeezed her wrist forcefully to indicate that he was still alive. Gu Mengmeng closed her eyes and held Li's face based on her feelings. Then, she planted a deep kiss on Li's lips. Then, Leah felt as if the blockage in his throat had been opened up. The cotton balls in his lungs also gradually melted away like cotton candy in contact with water, leaving only traces of sweetness spreading in his chest. After a long while, Leah let go of Gu Mengmeng. His lips moved up and landed lightly on her forehead. Then, he said in a gentle voice, "I'm fine, don't worry." The dull pain in her ears disappeared. Coupled with Li's calm tone, Gu Mengmeng finally relaxed. Wabiai's voice came from the white fog. "One fainted. I don't know who it is. I picked him up and brought him along." Hearing Wabiai's words, Gu Mengmeng called out everyone's names one by one. Only Leonard did not respond. She guessed that Wabiai had picked him up. Gu Mengmeng felt a little uneasy. So, she wrapped one arm around Elvis's neck and the other tightly held onto Leah. This was the only way she could feel more at ease. After walking for a long time, there was still no end to the white fog. Gu Mengmeng was worried that Leah could not take it, so she asked, "Leah, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Leah placed his other hand gently on the back of Gu Mengmeng's hand. "No, I'm fine now." Gu Mengmeng felt more assured when she heard that Li's tone was not forced at all. Then, she asked Elvis, "Hubby, how about you? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Elvis wanted to say that he was fine, but he had promised not to hide anything from her. So, he answered honestly. "My breathing is a little irregular and I feel strangely irritated. But luckily, I can take it." Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis would definitely be able to take it if he said so. But since she could make him feel more comfortable, why should she make him suffer? Thus, Gu Mengmeng's little mouth gently pressed against Elvis's lips. A light and lingering kiss brushed away the turbidity and frustration in Elvis's chest. That faint sense of irritation also subsided. No one knew how long they had been walking, but when Elvis stepped out of the white fog, the brightness in front of them burned everyone's eyes. Before Gu Mengmeng could react, Elvis had already pressed the back of her head and pressed her face against his chest. He whispered into her ear, "Slow down, it's too glaring." "Yes." Gu Mengmeng gradually got used to the light on Elvis's chest, then slowly opened her eyes. She only raised her head from Elvis's embrace when she was completely used to it. After a head count, Leonard had fainted and was being carried along by Wabiai's snake tail. Elvis and Leah remained by Gu Mengmeng's side while Peter stood slightly further away from them. His head was lowered and his features could not be seen clearly. They just felt that he was giving off a strange vibe, as if he was very irritated. "Peter, are you all right?" Gu Mengmeng probed. Peter clenched his fists tightly and kept his head down. After a long silence, he nodded as a reply. Chapter 971. Wabiai rolled his eyes at Gu Mengmeng with an impatient expression. He had come looking for a fight, but now he had become a nanny. So unhappy, so aggrieved, but he couldn't do anything to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng surveyed her surroundings. The vegetation here was lush, but different from the usual style in the beast world. The forests in the beast world were also lush, but the style was more like that of the Amazon primeval forest. But here, the style was more like the 3D special effects in the movie Avatar. It was as beautiful as the background in a fairy tale, giving off a surreal feeling. But, her lonely old man was clearly not here. Looking back at the place they had come from, the white fog was like a whirlpool, a little like the teleportation portal in online games. Leah made a mark at the exit, before the group started walking deeper into the forest. Every plant she saw here was a novel experience for Gu Mengmeng. It was as if she had fallen into a fairyland. Everything was too much for her eyes to take in. Suddenly, a murderous aura assaulted her from the back. Before Gu Mengmeng could turn around, she heard a cry behind her. Looking over, she saw Peter lying on the ground, his entire body covered in poison that was corroding his skin. Gu Mengmeng recognized this poison. It was snakes. In just a blink of an eye, Wabi-Ai had already wrapped Peter up tightly with his snake tail. His eyes were filled with danger, and his fangs were secreting poison. Why did he attack me? Gu Mengmeng didn't understand. Elvis also had a lingering fear. He had been vigilantly guarding his surroundings, but didn't expect danger to come from his side. Luckily, Snake's mark was protecting her, or Gu Mengmeng would have been injured. After all, Peter was a proper stray beast. Concealing his murderous aura before attacking was his specialty. Frowning, Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng deeper into his chest. It must be the influence of the white fog. I was also feeling very frustrated just now, and wanted to tear something to shreds. It was your kiss that calmed me down. Gu Mengmeng looked at Wabi-Ai. What about you? You also wanted to tear something to shreds? Wabi-Ai laughed coldly. I am not a brainless little wolf. How could I fall for it so easily? I held my breath the moment I entered the white fog. Talking about age again, Gu Mengmeng's heart twitched. Yes, the fact that she had slept with a 16-year-old wolf boy was a thorn in her heart. Besides, I'm a snake. Even if I feel irritated, I'll strangle it. Why would I want to tear something apart? Gu Mengmeng pouted. Little shit. What? Wabi-Ai expressed his displeasure at Gu Mengmeng calling him that. Gu Mengmeng giggled at Wabi-Ai's furious expression. It's alright, I was just casually shouting. I didn't expect you to actually agree. Hee hee, it seems like you've already recognized your own status. Scram! Wabi-Ai roared angrily. He glared at Gu Mengmeng, but his lips were curled into a smile. In the past, when Snake was around, he would start the fight straight away without any nonsense. It was only after he met Gu Mengmeng that he realized how interesting it was to have someone to bicker with. Peter and Leonard were in varying degrees of unconsciousness and were wrapped up by Wabi-Ai like luggage in the snake's tail. Then the group continued walking in. Chapter 972. Vines snaked all over the place, just like a blood-stained cave. Cobwebs were tightly woven and the faint red glow on the vines was like flowing blood, giving one the chills. Gu Mengmeng frowned and looked closely at the dark red flowing vines. The glowing and flowing parts were all on the veins of the leaves, just like human blood flowing in the blood vessels. Gu Mengmeng instinctively shrank her neck and snuggled into Elvis's arms. Scared? Elvis asked with concern. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, this scene is like a survival in the wild version of a haunted house. It's a little scary. Then let's not go in and go back the way we came. Elvis really didn't care much about that soul of the forest. Not to mention that Qishuan's life was no longer in danger, even if his life was hanging by a thread and he needed that thing to save his life. He would not let Gu Mengmeng hold back her fear to take that thing. But Gu Mengmeng was different. She shook her head and said, I must get the soul of the forest. Why don't you and Leah wait here and I will go in and help you get it? Elvis suggested another solution. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and smiled. But I don't want to be separated from you. Then. Elvis met Gu Mengmeng's bright eyes and his heart softened into a mess. He could only kiss her brow dotingly and indulgently, saying, be good and hide in my arms, I will protect you. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head. Gu Meng Meng nodded obediently and rested her head on Elvis's shoulder. Elvis, Leah and Wabi exchanged glances and raised their attention to the highest level. They had never seen anything here before. Stepping into a completely foreign world made them feel very uneasy, especially when they were carrying a female that they could not allow to have any mishaps. Hence, they became even more cautious with every step they took. Leah walked in front to open the way while Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng in the middle. Wabi walked at the back, ready to use his snake tail to pull Gu Meng Meng out if anything happened. One of Lee's feet had just stepped into the range of the blood-red vines, and before he could even lift his other foot, the vines had already started to move around, like countless blood snakes entangling and twisting, making rattling noises that made one's hair stand on end. Leah did not dare to move again and just watched the movements of the vines with his guard up. He waited until the vines stopped moving and confirmed that nothing dangerous had happened before he raised his hind legs and entered the place. With this step, the vines shook even more violently, and the rattling sounds became louder. Gu Meng Meng wanted Leah to retreat, but before she could open her mouth, those vines attacked Leah from all directions. Leah did not even have time to dodge before he was wrapped up by the vines and hung in midair. Then, he was quickly wrapped up into a cocoon. The mark on her left ear stung. Gu Meng Meng knew that Leah was injured, and it was a very serious injury. Elvis turned around and handed Gu Meng Meng over to Wabi. Without saying a word, he flew into the air and pounced towards that cocoon. He reached out his claws in midair, wanting to cut the vines in half to save Leah. But with one swipe of his claws, the vines did not even leave a mark, not to mention cutting them. Elvis's attack did not cause any damage and instead seemed to have angered those vines. So much so that Elvis had not even landed on the ground when he was already entangled by the vines. It was exactly the same as how he dealt with Leah. Aside from the topic, baby, today's update has ended. Chapter 973. In just a few breaths' time, there were already 2 red vine pupae in midair. Gu Meng Meng could sense that Elvis was releasing his beast pressure in an attempt to struggle, but the blood vines did not move at all, as if they were completely unaffected by the beast pressure. The same piercing pain came from her collarbone. Elvis was also injured. This realization drove Gu Meng Meng crazy. In that instant, she regretted it. If the price of obtaining the soul of the forest was losing Elvis and Leah, then she did not want it anymore. She would think of other ways to redeem her sons. She could not let anything happen to Elvis and Leah. With that thought in mind, Gu Meng Meng was already charging towards the red vines. She was the most powerful in the entire beast world. If there was anyone who had the ability to save them, it would be her. Before she could even step in, she felt something tighten around her waist. Her feet immediately left the ground and her body retreated backwards. The moment she stopped, Wabi's venomous eyes were inches away. His bone-chilling voice assaulted Gu Meng Meng's eardrums. "What do you want to do?" "I want to save my man." Wabi's snake tail wrapped tightly around Gu Meng Meng's waist. He gritted his teeth. "He exchanged his life for yours. I will not allow you to waste it anywhere." Gu Meng Meng bit her lower lip. She knew that Snake had sacrificed himself to save her life. She knew what she had lost to Snake. But no matter how guilty she felt, she could not watch Elvis and Leah die. "Stay here obediently. I will go save your little wolf pups and cunning foxes." Wabi let go of Gu Meng Meng. In his half-beast form, he was at least 2.5 meters tall. He was unbelievably imposing in front of Gu Meng Meng. He turned around with his back facing Gu Meng Meng. "Unless I die, I will not allow you to trample on his treasures." With that, Wabi shot into the range of the red vines like an arrow. His speed was faster than the vines' movement speed, so it was not easy for the vines to wrap around him. After over 800 years of battling with Snake, he was very clear on how to avoid damage in a linear attack. But even so, there were just too many vines to deal with. In the end, Wabi became the 3rd vine pupa in midair. Gu Meng Meng knew that Elvis and Leah would not be able to hold on much longer. She had no time to waste. Even though her body quality was far from a male's, she had snake strength. So when she neared the red vines, the moment the vines attacked her, she grabbed one of them and pulled it forcefully, tearing it apart. The end that was connected to the root seemed to be in great pain as it trembled and shrank back. The other end that was torn off was like a fish that was stranded on the shore, flopping around meaninglessly for a while before it stopped moving. Red liquid flowed out from the wound, and the corpse of the vine gradually became transparent as the red liquid flowed out. Gu Mengmeng did not know what this meant. She only knew that she had the ability to break the vines. This meant that she could save Elvis, Leah, and Wabi. The vines did not continue to attack her like unintelligent creatures. Instead, they twisted together in groups of 3 to 5 before attacking her. The 3 vines twisted into a fried dough twist, the thickness of which was comparable to Gu Mengmeng's calf. She could not even grab hold of it, let alone pull it apart. Chapter 974. The vines didn't break, but they cut Gu Mengmeng's hand. Then, the vines in her hand were like fruits placed in a fruit dryer, withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, the red liquid slowly flowed into Gu Mengmeng's body through the wound on her palm like silk. Gu Mengmeng was at a loss at this sudden change and didn't know what to do. She could only open her palm and watch as the red vines gradually lost their color. Thousands of silk threads gathered in her palm and finally entered her body. Gu Mengmeng could feel an endless amount of energy flowing into her body, challenging and breaking through the limits of what her body could withstand. In the end, only the 3 pupae in midair were left in this sea of red. Ah! Gu Mengmeng screamed as she endured the pain from the swelling of her body. In an instant, the 3 pupae burst open. A black figure dashed towards Gu Mengmeng and caught her as she fell backward. He protected her in his arms and kissed her forehead. His heart ached for her sweaty and exhausted appearance. He whispered, "Xiao Meng, it's all right now, it's all right now." Wabi returned to Gu Mengmeng's side at almost the same time as Elvis. He just stood behind Gu Mengmeng, pursing his lips and not saying a word. And Leah was not as powerful as Elvis and Wabi. He was also the first to be wrapped in the pupae and was the weakest. He wanted to be like Elvis and use his last bit of energy to rush towards Gu Mengmeng. Even if he died, he wanted to die in her arms. But unfortunately, this was the difference in their abilities. He used his last bit of energy to break out of the pupae. Leah. After the pupae wrapped them up, the leaves became incomparably sharp. Lee's entire body was covered in wounds. Although he knew medicine and had protected his important arteries and larger blood vessels in advance, he was still covered in wounds from the leaves and was covered in blood. He heard Gu Mengmeng calling him, so he gritted his teeth and forced a smile as he slowly walked towards her. One step, another step. When he finally reached her, Gu Mengmeng was sobbing uncontrollably. Leah knelt down on one knee and caressed Gu Mengmeng's face. "Mengmeng, don't be afraid. I am here." Gu Mengmeng's consciousness was already on the verge of blurring. The last scene she saw was countless blood-like red liquid exploding on Lee's back, before shooting towards her like congealed blood needles. Her vision darkened and Gu Mengmeng fainted. As long as Elvis and Leah were fine, that was good. If she died, then so be it. In any case, she would only cause trouble for them. If it wasn't for her willfulness, the 2 of them would probably be able to live a better life. Someone kept calling her name by her ear, but she couldn't open her tired eyes. Her whole body sank down, lying in the position of a baby in its mother's womb, as if her whole body was soaked in a kind of scarlet blood. Silence. Everything was so quiet that it was suffocating. Even the traces of the flow of time couldn't create a single ripple here. After an unknown period of time, Gu Mengmeng finally opened her eyes slowly. It was just her eyelashes fluttering slightly, but this slight movement was like a stabilizing force that calmed Elvis and Lee's turbulent world. Chapter 975. After Gu Mengmeng regained her consciousness, She opened her mouth to speak but realized that her throat was extremely hoarse and so dry that it hurt. Elvis immediately brought a cup of water to her lips so that she could moisten her throat. This water was very sweet and different from what she had drunk in the past. There was no pollution in the beast world and all springs, streams, and rivers could be used directly. It had a special natural sweetness, but this cup was different. After drinking it, she could feel the sweetness spreading through her blood vessels to every part of her body. Her dry body felt as if it was being nourished and irrigated. That feeling was very magical. It was as if her body had been cleansed completely and she had become transparent and clean. "Is everyone all right?" Gu Mengmeng could finally speak. Elvis nodded and carried Gu Mengmeng into his arms like a princess. He deeply inhaled the fragrance of her hair to calm down the uneasiness he had been feeling for the past few days. His voice was tired and hoarse, but it was mixed with a different kind of gentleness. "Only you were unconscious for 3 days and 2 nights, everyone else is fine." Gu Mengmeng nodded. Gu Mengmeng then nodded and felt much more at ease. Turning her head, Gu Mengmeng leaned her entire body against Elvis's chest and reached out a hand to caress Li's face. Her body was very tired but she tried her best to smile. "It's great that you are all right." Gu Mengmeng's voice was a little weak. "I was really scared when I saw you covered in blood before I fainted." Leah covered Gu Mengmeng's hand with his large hand and pulled it from his face to his lips. He kissed it deeply and said, "I'm sorry, I'm too weak and made you worry." Gu Mengmeng smiled and shook her head. "It's not that you're too weak, it's that I brought you guys to a dangerous place. It's all my fault. I had no confidence at all and let you guys take the risk with me." "Silly girl." Li's lips could not bear to leave this soft little hand. He had been holding it like this for the past 3 days, afraid that her hand would turn cold and he would never be able to lift it again. Now that this little hand was still warm and his Gu Mengmeng could still talk to him, the panic he had been suppressing for the past 3 days started to flare up. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Partners exist to protect you and do whatever you want. If I can't protect you, it will be my sin. Gu Mengmeng did not argue with Leah about the beast world's views on love. After all, in the beast world, where, if you don't act, you won't love me, it was really hard for Gu Mengmeng to tell them not to be too petty in love. Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng's shoulders to make her sit up straight, then he sat opposite her. His blue eyes stared deeply at Gu Mengmeng as he frowned with a serious expression. Gu Mengmeng had never seen Elvis facing her so seriously before. She panicked for a moment and subconsciously smiled to please him, asking, "Hubby, what's wrong?" Elvis did not say a word and just stared deeply at Gu Mengmeng. His thin lips were pressed into a straight line, giving off an oppressive feeling as if a storm was brewing. Gu Mengmeng felt that Elvis was angry this time, but she did not know what he was angry about, so she looked at Leah for help. Unexpectedly, Li's eyes darkened and he actually sat beside Elvis. Chapter 976. What exactly happened? Gu Mengmeng asked cautiously. Elvis took 2 deep breaths before saying slowly, "Why didn't you escape then?" "Ah." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in confusion. "Escape? When? Where to escape to?" Leah continued Elvis's words and continued, "Wabi already told us that when we were entangled by the blood vines, you had the chance to escape. But not only did you not escape, you even charged towards the blood vines." Li's tone was gentler than Elvis's but his words were full of reproach. This made Gu Mengmeng feel as if she did not stay behind to save them, but just ran away without a care in the world. Wasn't this state of mind reversed? Shouldn't he be extremely touched, kissing, hugging and raising her high up in the air? Why was he acting as if she was having an affair and wanted to divorce him? "Xiao Meng, you promised us that you would prioritize your own safety under any circumstances." Every word of Elvis sounded as if he had used a knife to pry open his heart and grinded his words with his blood. Gu Mengmeng felt a throbbing pain in her heart just by listening to him. She could feel her heart throbbing in pain. "I remember." Gu Mengmeng's voice softened and she frowned, but did not look like she was admitting her mistake. she said stubbornly, but the situation this time is special. If I didn't help, you and Leah would have died. How could Elvis not know that Gu Mengmeng was risking her life for them? It would be a lie to say that he was not touched. He was so touched that he wanted to dig out his own heart and crush it to appease the strange movements in his chest. But, it is my honor to die for you. Clenching his teeth, he carefully polished every inch of Gu Mengmeng's worries during the 3 days she was unconscious. With the blood in his heart, he ground it into cinnabar and dripped it between his lips. He used his words to let her clearly see the wound on his heart and how painful and fatal it was. If anything happens to you, the both of us will not be able to die in peace. Leah had said these words to her before. At that time, they were still in the Snake King Valley and Snake was still alive. She used her body to block in front of Elvis to prevent Snake from using his snake tail to whip Elvis, but in the end, Elvis protected her in his arms and forcefully received Snake's tail. At that time, she begged Leah to quickly save Elvis, but Leah held her shoulders and said, if anything were to happen to you, we wouldn't be able to rest in peace. If we still have any weight in your heart, promise me that you will prioritize your own safety under any circumstances. She remembered what she had promised. But if she really wanted to watch Elvis and Leah die while she stayed out of it and escaped, she could not do it. Raising her head, Gu Mengmeng's eyes reddened. Let me tell you, I regret it. No matter how many times in the future, as long as you and Leah are in danger, I will not care about anything else and rush over to save you. If you die, I won't live alone. Xiao Meng. This was the first time Elvis had shouted at her like this. In the past, no matter what she did, no matter how willful she was, Elvis had never shouted at her like this. Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and tears rolled down her cheeks. She refused to give in and roared, it's useless even if you roar at me. I just can't live without the two of you. What can you do about it? Bite me if you can. Hearing Gu Mengmeng roaring this sentence in a provocative tone, Elvis and Leah felt their chests hurting from the shock. Chapter 977. Elvis clenched his fists for a long time before finally giving in to Gu Mengmeng's tears. Hugging her in his arms, Elvis sighed deeply. I want to protect your smile, but I always make you cry. I am still too weak. Snake's last words to him were like an awl hanging over his heart. Whenever Gu Mengmeng was hurt or wronged, it would fall down and stab him viciously. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. You have already done very well, really very well, but you still cried. Elvis cupped Gu Mengmeng's little face, his heart aching for her. He kissed away her tears and stared into her reddened eyes. You clearly know that I am helpless against your tears, but you still cry and force me to give in. Wabi-I walked over and snorted coldly. Are you done with your nonsense? Are you still going to take the soul of the forest? Gu Mengmeng's face was still covered in tears. She turned to look at Wabi-I. "Oh, little shit, you are not dead," Wabi-I gritted his teeth. "I have already said that the only person who can kill me in this world has been killed by you. So I will not die." Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Yes, people say that a scourge lives for 1,000 years, so you can at least live for another 200 years. Wabi-I realized that he had no advantage over Gu Mengmeng at all. He could not win in a fight, nor could he win in an argument. In the end, he just rolled his eyes in anger and didn't say anything else. But with Wabi-I's interference, Gu Mengmeng stopped crying. Sniffing, she looked around and realized that she was no longer with the blood vines. She asked, "Were you all hurrying along when I was unconscious?" Elvis shook his head. "When you were unconscious, we didn't dare to move you for fear of an accident. So we did not move from the same spot." Did not move from the same spot? Gu Mengmeng was extremely confused. The surrounding scenery was crystal clear, as if it was a world carved out of crystal. It was pure white and transparent, so clean that one could not bear to touch it for fear of tarnishing its purity. Where was the sinister look of the blood vines? If the blood vines were like a blood-stained cave, then this place was like the Jade Lake Palace in the 9 heavens. If one looked closely, it would not be difficult to discover that the crystalline plant was extremely similar to the blood vines. This is. Gu Mengmeng stared at it blankly for a long time before she recalled the dazzling red silk that gathered in her palm before she fainted. Spreading open his palm, the wound on his palm had already healed completely. There was no trace of it at all. Gu Mengmeng mumbled in a daze, so it wasn't a hallucination caused by my severe injuries. I really sucked the blood from the blood vines into my body? When did I become so capable? Elvis did not see the entire process of her absorption, but he did see the process of her absorbing the 3 vine chrysalises. Now that he saw her staring at her palm in a daze, he could not help but worry and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Mengmeng looked at him and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I just felt a huge amount of energy entering my body at that time, but now I don't feel anything." Only then did Elvis heave a sigh of relief. "There's something strange about this place, we shouldn't stay here for long. We'd better end this quickly and return after taking the soul of the forest." Chapter 978. For some strange reason, Gu Mengmeng reached out a hand. That blood vine, oh, no, it should be called crystal vine now. The crystal vines intertwined with each other and formed a palm-like shape. Mimicking Gu Mengmeng's actions, it lightly stuck onto her palm. Then, with a rustling sound, the crystal vine in front of them parted to reveal a fairyland in front of Gu Mengmeng's group. Elvis and Leah exchanged a look but didn't say a word. Leonard walked forward and bowed to Gu Mengmeng. "I was here to help, but I didn't expect to become a burden. This time, let me lead the way." Gu Mengmeng didn't say a word and just nodded. Humans were all selfish. She didn't want Elvis and Leah to take any more risks. If they ended up in a cocoon and hung in mid-air again, Gu Mengmeng would go crazy. Peter felt guilty for attacking Gu Mengmeng, but he wasn't someone who would apologize. To him, rather than saying sorry 100 times, it was better to do something right to make up for it. Moreover, he didn't trust Leonard. So he didn't say a word and just silently walked to Leonard's side to lead the way. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and followed behind them, while Leah stood by Elvis's side, protecting Gu Mengmeng from both sides. After all, he had the advantage of being longer. If there was a special situation, he could use his tail to fish Gu Mengmeng back. The group walked along the path that the crystal vine had guided them. The scenery was beautiful, but no one was in the mood to appreciate it. Gu Mengmeng couldn't stand the silence and poked Leah. "I just thought of something." Leah glanced at her and replied gently, "MMM?" Gu Mengmeng said, "Do you remember, when I was in the deep sea, I told you that I had a dream? I dreamt that there was an endless amount of blood exploding in the sky behind you, and you came drenched in blood. That scene coincided with the last scene I saw before I fainted. It was exactly the same." Leah smiled playfully. "Could it be that father-in-law gave you the heaven's eye of prophecy?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "How is that possible? Our lonely old man is very stingy. I don't know why he never gives me extra pocket money. If he really has the heavenly eye, he won't give it to me unless he drags me to watch 8 or 10 episodes of a TV series." Leah had heard too many of Gu Mengmeng's complaints about the beast deity. From the initial panic, he could now laugh it off. He nodded and said, "That could just be a coincidence." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and said hesitantly, "If it's a coincidence, it's too much of a coincidence. The images are so accurate that every frame is exactly the same." Leah knew that Gu Mengmeng had a photographic memory after inheriting Snake's abilities, so he did not suspect that she had remembered wrongly. It was just a dream, so Leah did not take it to heart. He just rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and told her not to think too much. Gu Mengmeng thought about it and agreed. It was a waste of time to make wild guesses. She could just ask that lonely old man the next time she met him. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly heard an anguished wail. Gu Mengmeng seemed to have been scared out of her wits by the blood vines. Once she heard the wails, she immediately looked around with a face full of wariness. Chapter 979. Is the poison in the white fog acting up again? Gu Mengmeng asked in confusion. Leah shook his head and used his body to shield Gu Mengmeng. He glanced sideways at her. Don't you find him rather familiar? Gu Mengmeng frowned. She had no impression of him. Leah sighed. That's true. Cole is a 5th-level beast after all. He looks better when he's suffering from the backlash. Backlash? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She suddenly recalled the day when they had a showdown with Cole. She had used the backlash of the mating contract to defeat Cole. That day, Cole was also in extreme pain. But he was not as writhing and trembling as Leonard was now. Did something happen to Dora? Gu Mengmeng understood what Leah meant. Leah nodded. Most likely. Gu Mengmeng frowned as she watched Leonard struggling in pain. He had no other way to deal with the backlash of the mating contract. No one could help him. Zacharias is heavily guarded. How could something happen to Dora in the tribe? Gu Mengmeng could not understand. Lee's lips curved up in disdain. No matter how heavily guarded the tribe is, it can't stop an idiot from courting death. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She didn't say anything else. After all, they were all here. No one knew what had happened outside. The only thing she could do now was to wait and see if Leonard could survive the backlash of the mating contract. To be honest, even though she had Snake's memories in her body and was used to seeing bloodshed, Gu Mengmeng still felt her heart wrench at Leonard's cries and pain. How much pain did he have to be in? How could such a man, who could remain unfazed even in the face of Mount Tai collapse, be in such a pathetic state? His eyes were bulging and bloodshot. She couldn't tell if it was tears or sweat, but they flowed down his face. Ah! Every cry came from the deepest part of his chest. Gu Mengmeng had personally witnessed what it meant to tear one's heart and lungs apart. A pair of sharp claws fiercely scratched at his chest, as if he wanted to dig out his heart and crush it to end this bone-piercing pain. However, he didn't know what made him resist this desire to dig out his heart and forcibly stop the sharp claws that had already sunk into his chest. After a long while, when Gu Mengmeng really wanted to give him a quick death, Leonard finally calmed down. At this moment, there was not a single piece of uninjured skin on his body. He looked like a demon that had crawled out of hell. His eyes were sinister and venomous. He trembled as he stood up, ignoring the blood that was still flowing out of his body. He only muttered, "Revenge, I have to avenge Dora. Dora, wait for me. I will come for you after I kill him. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Even in hell, I will protect you." As Reynolds spoke, he turned back the way he came. Gu Mengmeng did not stop him and just let him leave. She didn't know if Leonard could survive that white fog. After all, he had fainted halfway and it was Wabi who had brought him out. But at this moment, his gaze was too determined. Gu Mengmeng deeply understood that revenge was his only reason for surviving. But who was he going to find for revenge? And how was he going to do it? Gu Mengmeng didn't know and didn't ask. Chapter 980. After Leonard left, Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck in silence for a long time. Elvis and Leah both thought that she was feeling upset after witnessing that scene because she was soft-hearted, but did not know how to comfort her. Afraid that they would say something wrong and make her even more upset, they could only remain silent. The group continued walking forward. After a long while, Gu Mengmeng suddenly said, "Hubby, I will definitely protect myself well in the future. I will definitely not let you and Leah experience what Leonard did." Both Elvis and Leah paused for a moment before they smiled. Females in the beast world had always viewed themselves as the most precious, and protecting themselves from any injuries was a basic norm. Only this little female and their family would rush to any dangerous place without stopping. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's cheek, and said with indulgence and some helplessness, "You finally have some self-awareness as a female." Elvis also chuckled and kissed Gu Mengmeng's serious face, saying, "No matter what, knowing how to protect yourself is always a good thing." Don't forget it the moment you turn your head. Gu Mengmeng swatted away Li's hand that was pinching her face, then leaned against Elvis's neck, whispering, I will not forget, because I cannot bear to see you all suffer. When I saw Leonard rolling on the ground in pain just now, I was thinking, if it was you or Leah lying there, my heart would ache so much. Gu Mengmeng, who never knew how to avoid danger and would often use herself as bait, learned to protect herself for them. Her heart was very warm. Kissing Gu Mengmeng's brow, Elvis only said one word, be good. After walking for a long while, they finally reached the end of the crystal vines. There was only one tree there, and it was so thick that it would require a few people to encircle it. Its roots were the size of a football field, and the roots closest to the trunk were even thicker than Wabiai's body. It could already be considered a sacred tree? If it was in the modern world, it would be listed as a protected area. Gu Mengmeng jumped down from Elvis's arms and walked towards the tree on her own. Elvis, Leah, and the rest followed closely behind, but it was as if they were stopped 200 meters away by an invisible barrier, unable to take another step forward. Even Wabiai could not move an inch forward even with all his might. But Gu Mengmeng walked over without any obstacles. Turning around, Gu Mengmeng smiled at Elvis and Leah and said, Don't worry, I can feel that it has no ill intentions and is not dangerous. Elvis and Leah frowned at the thought of the aggressive nature of the blood vines. If he didn't have any ill intentions, why didn't he allow them to get close? Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else and just turned around to continue approaching the tree. The leaves on the tree glowed like emeralds, layer upon layer covering the clouds and the sun. Gu Mengmeng looked up and saw a leaf floating down leisurely, landing right in her palm. It was cool to the touch and had a weight that did not belong to a plant. Gu Mengmeng scrutinized that piece of leaf. Then, she saw that the leaf gradually disappeared into her palm as if it had melted into her palm and into her body. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.